Triggers get a bad rap, but they are actually super important in your life. It's best to understand what your triggers are and bring these triggers out of the darkness of your life where you've been keeping them hidden so that only narcissistic people can find them and use them against you to keep you right where they want you. Instead, by understanding our triggers and bringing them to the forefront of our life, taking them out of the darkness and into the light, you will begin to see how your triggers are your truth. Your triggers are your honesty. Your triggers are your boundaries. Your triggers are your beauty. And your triggers will protect you and change your life if you allow them to. My name is Kevin, and this is The Royal We. Now, before I continue, I want to let you know that I'm here to support you. Down in the description box, you'll find access for one-on-one appointments with me. In addition to that, I have a brand new life coaching program where I teach every day, Monday through Friday, live with questions and answers. It's only $49 for the entire month. You cannot afford to miss out on this, so get down there and get registered or give me a call. I would love to talk with you. Now, we're talking about triggers. The first thing we need to understand about triggers is that they are not the same things as things that annoy you. There are things that bother you and annoy you, and then there are triggers, and there are clear differences between the two. For example, when I was dealing with the narcissistic people back in California, those narcissistic siblings, they'd call me names and call me ugly and this and that, and those things didn't trigger me. They annoyed me. I didn't want to really be around it. I'm like, I'm getting tired of this stuff, right? It just choked out the joy. It made me not have any fun around them just because it got old. Like, I'm tired of this. Every time we're together, it's this joke and that joke. Okay, these are things that bother you. These are things that annoy you. That's not what a trigger is. So for those of you who are curious to know what a trigger is, you'll know you've been triggered when that one thing happens and you go into fight or flight. You either explode or you run. You get the heck out of there. You can't be there in that moment. It's more than just, okay, you're bothering me. It's something deeper. You can't even stand it. That's how you know that's the difference between a trigger and just being bothered. Now, many of you don't even know what your triggers are. Not completely. I didn't know what my triggers were. I knew that I had these moments where I couldn't stand to be there, or I had to say something. I had to erupt. I felt, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to share this with you right now. If you don't know what your triggers are, I produced a video a long time ago. Not that long ago. I'm going to put the link to it right here. It actually teaches you how to find what your triggers are down to a T. It has you actually track and record the moment you go into fight or flight, whether it's with a narcissistic person or somebody who you don't even know, but something happens and you just feel this eruption inside of you. It helps you to identify what the trigger is. So watch this video. I'll also link that video at the end of this one so you can, again, watch it. I challenge you to watch that video. It's going to be good for you. In this one, I'm not going to get into how to find your triggers, but I want to talk about what your triggers actually mean and how to use them in your life to empower you. How to take them from that dark place where you keep them hidden so that they only come out when you don't even know what's going on, and instead put these triggers on the forefront of your life, embrace them as a part of who you are. This becomes important because what are triggers? Triggers happen to be traumas that you've experienced in life, things that went against who you are, things that crossed your moral boundaries, things that crossed your principles, things that crossed your understanding of right and wrong. And I'm not talking about the right or wrong that you're taught in school or the right and wrong that you're taught by your parents. I'm talking about an internal right or wrong, something that has been given to you by God, something that comes from not of this world, but it's just your inner sense of being that was wronged at some point in your life. And it could have been by your parents, could have been by your mother, could have been by your father, could have been by a brother, a sister. And this thing that happened, you were too young to be able to understand or articulate or even able to stand up for yourself. You didn't know how to process it. You didn't know what to say. This is what becomes a trigger. It becomes a button, and it becomes buried deep inside of you. Why? Because you don't know how to articulate it. You didn't know how to stand up for yourself. Maybe it was being molested. You didn't know what to think about that or what to say about that or how to even acknowledge it or who to tell. It became a trigger. It became a button. Maybe it was abandonment. You didn't know what to say or who to say it to or who would even listen. So it became a button, a trigger that you buried. And it's not so much that you buried it deep, but what ultimately happens is that you try to move on. And so you go get busy. You go into your bedroom as a child and you play with toys. You make yourself try to forget it, try to ignore it. And that's the stuff that buries these buttons. And then as life goes on, you go into school, you play sports, you get involved in whatever, drama, choir, playing flutophone, playing with friends, riding your bicycle. And meanwhile, that thing that happened gets buried and buried and buried under layers of adolescent, youthful busyness because you never addressed it. You never allowed this to become a part of your truth. So now watch this. These things that happen to you, again, it's a crossing, it's a violation of your natural God-given morality, your sense of what's right and what's wrong and what's beautiful and what's not beautiful in this world. That's what was violated. As an adult, you don't need to keep these things buried anymore. You don't need to keep these things as triggers anymore. Because what happens is you're being dishonest in your life. As you are not living according to your triggers, when you keep them buried, you're being dishonest. You're not being honest. You're entering into gray areas in all kinds of relationships. Even relationships where you're being bothered by things or you're being triggered by things and you're entering into gray zones. Well, this is okay, but this is not okay. Blah, blah, blah. No. Watch. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the triggers inside that are buried. We're going to start to acknowledge them and bring them on to the outside. They're going to become your boundaries. This way you won't have to worry about them being hidden and pushed. You don't have to be ashamed of your triggers anymore. Acknowledge them, embrace them in such a way that you now wear them proudly. So for example, if your trigger you discover is abandonment, you're now going to wear that proudly. And when you come across any relationship and somebody is trying to get to know you, but then they're abandoning you, you're dating somebody, but then they're leaving at 7:00 at night, and they're disappearing or whatever until 2 a.m. or whatever, and you're living together. I don't know, just as an example. Right? It's a deal breaker. You know that inside you're being crushed because the trigger is happening deep down. But when you wear it on the outside, now you speak your truth. Now you say, that's a deal breaker. You're not letting me know where you're at? Yet you want me to believe that you care about me? This, that? No. That's a deal breaker. Now that I know that you're like that, listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to separate. All right? I'm going to think about it. I'm going to think about how we should continue. Do I need to keep you at an arm's length distance? Do I need to friend zone you? Which for short means don't call me, I'll call you, which will probably be never again. Deal breakers. Let your triggers become your deal breakers. Maybe you don't like cussing, name calling, violence, hostility, because when you were younger, you had an abusive father or an abusive mother or an abusive stepfather who would cuss and yell and scream. It created this trigger because you didn't know how to stand up for yourself when you were younger. Now, you want to bring that trigger to the forefront. Don't keep it buried to where some narcissistic person is going to find it eventually. Wear it on the forefront. So when you are with people and suddenly you see somebody mouthing off and cussing and screaming and yelling at somebody else and they're with you, you say, I don't do that. I don't do that. That's a shiny red button on the outside of my life. I am proud that I don't do that. I don't associate with people who talk like that. So that's a deal breaker. Do you see how triggers can be brought forward to become your boundaries in this life? They can become hard walls of no. This is what I was trying to say earlier. Your triggers are beautiful. Your triggers are your protectors. They don't need to stay hidden. And now some of you might be saying, yeah, but Kevin, if I put my triggers out there like that, then people are just going to leave me. The ones you don't need to be with are going to leave you. That's what happens when you're honest in this life. When you're honest about who you are, your deal breakers, what you will accept, won't accept, what you'll tolerate in a relationship, what you won't tolerate in a relationship. The wrong people for you will leave you. And they should. And if you're grabbing onto them, changing your boundaries for them, then you're in the relationship for the wrong reason. It means you're in it because you just think they're cute. and you're afraid you'll never get somebody that cute again. I've heard all this stuff before. I've been taking phone calls for 5 years. I've actually heard somebody say, oh, but their eyes. I'll never get somebody with eyes like that again. Who cares? It's not worth it. It's not worth somebody who violates your God-given morality because of a color of eyes. Come on. Come on, friends. We've got to be better than that in this world. You, me, all of us. You don't want people in your life at all who cross and violate your morality that was God-given. You want people who resonate with you. So it's going to cause you living with your triggers out front, which become your boundaries, your beautiful protectors. You living with that out front will mean that you're reserving yourself for only those who resonate with you. You're on the same wavelength. You're of the same mind. You're two oxen moving together. That's the only people you want in your life anyways. Those are the people you want to reward. Those are the people you want to spend time with. Those are the people you want to give your love to. Those are the people you want to sit with. Those are the people you want to connect with. Don't mess around by being dishonest and keeping your triggers buried because of the color of somebody's eyes, the color of their hair, or any of that nonsense. So again, bring your triggers to the forefront. It will change your life. It will minimize your interaction with narcissists. It will keep bad people out of your life. And you won't have to worry about anybody finding them and you erupting. Instead, you will already have them out front, and you'll be upfront and honest the moment something crosses and violates your God-given values and morals. The moment it's crossed, you'll address it. It's a deal breaker for me. And if you live according to that, your life will change. Your relationships will change. I promise you that. All right? As I said before, I'm here to support you. Down in the description box, you'll find access for one-on-one appointments. So get down there, spend some time with me. I'd love to talk with you. I'll be back with more videos for you right here on The Royal We.